Welcome, Explorer Nation. Tonight, our topic is navigating the job market during the pandemic. This has been a year of huge changes in the traditional way the job market works. Business owners, hiring professionals, and job seekers have lots of unanswered questions. This virtual town hall is your chance to get some guidance and answers from the human resource professionals we've gathered here. They have graciously volunteered their time and expertise in the areas of recruitment, talent search, resume writing, and interviewing skills. During this town hall, they will offer advice that will help you find a path forward in this new normal. I'm delighted to welcome Ernie Castro of the class of 1987. Ernie is the Executive Vice President and General Manager of Coastal Pacific Wine and Spirits of Florida, and he will be our moderator this evening. Ernie, take it away.
Thank you, Tom. Good evening and welcome to the Human Resources Town Hall. There hasn't been anyone that I have spoken with over the last year that has not been affected by this health crisis. Everyone from current students to parents and alumni have all been touched by this pandemic. Many of the folks I have spoken with have had their businesses impacted or have seen job opportunities dissolve. For these reasons, I wanted to reach out to our brotherhood at Columbus and find ways to help each other out. Our goal tonight is to provide our alumni with the tools needed to create new opportunities and to educate our alumni and their families on the skills needed to succeed in today's job market. Please join me in welcoming tonight's panel of guest speakers. First, we have Adi Shoes, Director of Recruiting Services at Ryder Systems. Joaquin Sola, Principal, Joby Talent Group. Bimal Desai, Principal, Joby Talent Group, and Robert Garcia, Principal, RX Global Consulting. Welcome, everyone.
Welcome, Ernie. Thank you.
You're welcome. Yeah, great to see you all.
Thank you.
I thought we'd start first with a little introduction. So, Adi, if maybe we can start with you. Can you please tell us a little something about your role and what you do at Ryder?
Good evening, everyone. My name is Adi Shoes, and as Ernie said, I am Director of Recruiting at Ryder. I've been with the company for 15 years now in different types of roles, and for the last 3 years or so, I've been managing 2 of the divisions for Ryder. So mainly it's around warehouse recruiting and everything related to taking care of the trucks, renting the trucks, and selling the trucks. Most of you are probably familiar with Ryder, as we are one of the largest employers in the area, and you've most likely seen our trucks with our white trucks with the red and the black symbol of Ryder. So we're a Fortune 500 company. We're located in Doral, and we have close to 40,000 employees right now. So we have about 2,400 openings at the moment. So we're basically very actively still looking and recruiting for folks across the US and Canada. So I'm happy to be here tonight, and I hope we're able to answer many of the questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Adi. Yeah, and here our company is a big customer of Ryder in the logistics company. And I also want to note that Robert Sanchez, the chairman and CEO of Ryder, is also a proud alumni of Christopher Columbus High School. Joaquin, let's turn to you. Joby, can you tell us a little bit about your company and what you guys do?
Absolutely. Good afternoon, everyone. Good early evening, I guess. We are a recruiting firm. So we started this journey 11 years ago, Bimal Desai and I, and our goal is to help candidates and companies meet their match. So you can call us almost like a matchmaker. That's what we are. So we help the candidates to get the interview and hopefully the job, and we help our clients by curating these candidates so they find the right match, so everyone wins. Now, I want to be clear here tonight, we are not an HR department. We're more of a recruiting firm. So while HR is focused more on different avenues like managing the employee's life cycle, training, and administration benefits, we are exclusively recruiting. That's what we do. So tonight we have some tips for you that I think will help you in this process, which should be a fun, enjoyable process for you. It's your career. And at the bottom of the Christopher Columbus career page, you can find all our contact information. So we are very excited to be here tonight.
Thank you, Joaquin. And yeah, we'll touch on that new website later on this evening. And lastly, I want to introduce again Robert Garcia, Principal RX Global Consulting. Robert, can you talk a little bit about what you do?
Yes, it's a pleasure to be here, and I'm a coach and a career counselor. I also do global business development. I have lots of experience helping individuals transition to new and exciting opportunities. Looking forward to a great discussion, and thanks for having me.
Thank you, Robert. And it's pretty cool here. We have 4 individuals that represent 3 very important sectors of the hiring process. 1, a coach to prepare you. We have 2 gentlemen that are actually going to help actively seek and work for you to help you find a job. And we have Adi, who can speak directly as to what corporations and companies are looking for. So very insightful evening. I also want to make sure that everybody's aware that you have an opportunity to ask questions throughout this evening as well. There is a chat box. Feel free to go into the chat box, and as we go through the Q&A, if there's something else you're interested in or something you'd like, something else you'd like to know, this is a very free-flowing hour that we're going to have. So please feel free to ask your questions, and we'll try to get as many of them answered before the night's out. So let's start with Adi. Adi, has the pandemic created new organizational manpower needs at Ryder due to increased demand for resources that have come out of this pandemic that has made you change the way you look at things? A lot of supply shortages, a lot of challenges have come up, but through challenges also come opportunities. So how has Ryder attacked this?
I will say that we didn't really see any new positions or roles come from this. However, we did see an increase of needs right across anything related to transportation. We had to deploy about 1,500 drivers in a short period of time. We had to hire warehouse workers to provide shipping, be able to ship and receive product. So anything, again, around getting a product from point A to point B, we did see a lot of an increase of demands in that space, mostly around consumer goods.
Yeah, so I can also speak from our own experience here at our company. You know, one of the things that we've seen here at Southern Glazers Wine and Spirits is e-commerce really became a major player in our category. So as a matter of fact, one of my employees was just promoted today to head up a new e-commerce division that we've never had. So there's a lot of new opportunities depending on the industry and the lines of work that you're in that, you know, you may want to look about, maybe do something different to take advantage of these new trends. And we're also going to talk a little bit about that in terms of possibly how do you reinvent yourself because of the pandemic and some of the opportunities that have come about because of it.
And Ernie, if I can expand a little bit, one of the other roles, I guess, that I've seen also, not of course at the level of the warehouse and transportation, but I have seen an increase in needs from regarding content development, right? Because a lot of stuff is moving virtual, right? We have to hire virtually, we have to have meetings virtually. So in our company, for example, we had to bring in folks into our HR team to help develop training now, onboarding for new employees and products around how to, like, dealing with people virtually now. So I will say that that will be a different, also another space where we've seen an increase of needs, let's say, and not only across at Ryder, but across some of the other companies that are part of my network, let's say.
Excellent. Next question, Bimal. What are the biggest changes to the job market that you have seen due to the COVID pandemic?
Thank you, Ernie. Good evening, everyone that's joining us. Ernie, obviously the big one is the expansion in remote work over the last year. It's been extraordinary. We've seen more expansion in remote work and work from home in the last year than probably in the previous 10. And I would expect that to continue even as we emerge from this pandemic. Why? Employers are finding that it's sometimes cheaper to obviously have folks working from home, but also employees are happier with some work from home option. And I think that trend is definitely one that's really caught on in industries that you would have never have expected a year ago, like law firms and sometimes financial services. So what does that mean for job seekers? Well, it means you can expand the scope of what you might consider quite beyond what you might have otherwise done. Previously, you might have been limited to what's commutable from your house or what fits your particular, lifestyle. But now you can consider other markets. You could consider other time zones. You could consider other industries, or another city, for example, might have more positions in the industry you're interested in. You can now consider that. So in that way, this is a shift that actually could be a positive rather than a detriment as you go about your search. One caveat I'd make is as we're all a little bit more casual and we're home and it's comfortable to sit in your house as I am now, you got to maintain those professional standards when you're working remotely. We've seen a lot of, I'm sure you've heard all the stories like that. So employers are still making a judgment on your worthiness and your professionalism and how your interests based on what they see on the screen. So, keep that professional standard, give that good energy, and be in a professional environment, a good looking space where you're sitting that gives that same impression.
Yeah. And I can speak to that a little bit also, Bimal. Like at Ryder, we saw many positions also shift to remote working. For example, my team, my group of recruiters, they're not local here in Miami, but they used to sit all of them at a shop, at a location. And since the pandemic started, they've been working from home. I'm also growing my team, and I've been, as Bimal mentioned, I'm able now to expand my search because I'm going beyond where we have a location, right? I'm able to look more at the talent available anywhere in the U.S. rather than just in specific pockets.
So building on these points, right? Because we're in a similar situation and we're talking about bringing our people back into an office setting, limited office setting, sometime in May. And I think as companies start to go down this process sometime in the summertime, as more people become vaccinated, as the numbers go down, office openings will start. But what I think I'm hearing you all say is that the pendulum is not going to shift all the way back to what normal was. There's going to be a new normal here in terms of what job opportunities are going to be out there. And there, some jobs you may not have considered because of locale are now in play.
That is correct. Absolutely.
Yes.
Okay, so interesting.
Yeah.
So that's a great way to think about, thinking differently in terms of how one might be looking to apply for a job, whereas technology obviously has taken the forefront here with COVID and has advanced. And I think there's a new comfort zone with Zoom and these types of face-to-face meetings. And plus, you think about all the commute time, the travel time, the costs associated that come out. So employers, I think, are probably embracing this, correct?
Yes, that's the trend that I'm seeing. Many employers are rethinking the office space, and many are giving up. In fact, I have several friends that their offices have given up their commercial real estate because they've worked so well from home that they've recognized that it's not necessary to have them in the office. So this also for candidates expands their, as Bimal was saying, their network of possibilities. It opens up many markets that traditionally may not have been available. Now, all of a sudden, work can be done remotely from anywhere. And people are shifting as well. If, for instance, there are a lot of people that are moving from New York City out into the suburbs or into other states where taxes are less because they've recognized that they can work from anywhere.
So, Robert, sticking with you, how does someone go about reinventing themselves if demand for the field of work that they've been in has been diminished because of the pandemic and they're looking to do something else?
Yeah, this is a great opportunity to really think about your passions. What is it that you love to do? Think hard about what you've dreamed of doing. What skills do you have you developed that could be transferred, or what we call transferable skills, to other jobs, other opportunities, even other industries, things that you've dreamed about. This may be the opportunity for you to research jobs in that industry. Also being careful to research how much those jobs pay, because we may be accustomed to a certain lifestyle. And although our passion may be in, let's say, education, we may not look for jobs that are exactly what we were accustomed to or what we were making. So we need to research that well. and pay isn't everything. I think passion and a desire to do something exciting and new and different is just as important. But and then maybe you want to take a course, maybe you want to get certified, maybe you want to go back to school, and there are options. Maybe you can explore starting your own business or consulting. Maybe you have the opportunity to buy a business, but look at those opportunities and don't be tied to what you were doing. Certainly your marketability is in the industry that you're in and the job that you were doing, but be open to those possibilities and explore as much as you can other types of opportunities.
Yeah, I would just agree with that, Ernie, what Robert said. I think if you take this as an opportunity, we were talking to someone that always liked the Coca-Cola, the product Coca-Cola, and those jobs might not have been feasible living in Miami because that's an Atlanta-based company, but so many more opportunities are available now because of the remote modality that you can access and work remotely. You don't have to limit your aspirations and your dreams to just what's in your home market. You can think more expansively, and that's kind of a positive. So hopefully people take it that way, because we believe it really is a positive.
Yeah, the world we live in is definitely changing, and it's going to be a completely new landscape when it comes to applying for jobs and hiring and looking at different skill sets that people have. So on that note, Joaquin, like right now, I'm in the process of looking for a new house, and there's a lot of people that may say, you know what, I'm going to do this without a realtor. I'm going to do this by owner. And obviously, I don't know a lot about real estate, so I could probably mess some things up.
Sure.
I would imagine what you guys do is almost like being a realtor for job seekers. So can you tell us what some of the biggest mistakes candidates make when they're doing a job search?
That's such a great question. And this mistake, we see this every day. And that's why I'm smiling, because it's so easily correctable, but people do it all the time. So guys, focus on the job description. Everyone in this panel is probably smiling right now because there's a job description, right? Well, that means that all the answers to the job are in the job description. So we see resumes that are focused on, let's say, customer service, but the job description is asking for sales, right? And then when we talk to the candidates, we realize that the candidate has one generic resume for every job they apply to. That's a big mistake. That's like saying, did Picasso paint one painting in his career? No, Picasso painted thousands of paintings. So you have to adjust your resume to the job description. You have to make it relate. You have to let it say, okay, I do have some sales experience. Let me put it in here. Let me not just keep it as one generic resume. So you need to think of your career and relate your resume to that job description. Look at it carefully and see where there's a match in what they are asking for. This happens all the time. Happened to me today. I was speaking to a candidate, and the candidate had all this talent, but it wasn't on the job. It wasn't on his resume. And I said, well, why isn't this on your resume? Well, I just have one organized resume. No, you have to have different resumes. You have to adjust your resume to the job. And usually their intuition is actually correct. The resume and the job description, they just don't fit, but the person does. So what we do is we help them fit. We ask them the questions. We say, okay, you do have some sales experience. Let's put it on your resume. And that's how we will help it. So I would say the biggest mistake is the golden ticket is your resume. That's the ticket to the concert, which is the interview, right? So we want to get you to the interview. To get you to the interview, that resume has to stick out and has to match the job description. So that is a huge one that we see over and over and over. And we are here to help you with that. Absolutely.
Yeah, and I agree, Joaquin. I think that you need to tweak your resume and really look at the job and the job description. And sometimes you don't realize or remember the things that you were doing that you haven't included in your resume. The big suggestion I give you is keep track of the resume that you sent to the job. You don't want to show up to an interview with a totally different resume and send the wrong message to the employer. But I do agree that you need to tweak your resume to match the job so that you can highlight those duties and responsibilities that are required of the job that you're applying for.
That's right. That's right, Robert. And usually, as we see, their intuition is correct. We never ask someone to embellish a resume. That's wrong. No one should ever do that. But their intuition is always correct. Somewhere along the line, yeah, I have done this, but they just don't put it on there. They keep it generic. So that's a huge one, and it's like a basic one, but very important.
Yeah, no doubt. And with that, I guess, Robert, I'm just going to jump over this one here and go right back to you on this, because this goes right in and building on this conversation. As a coach, right, and there's someone that helps prepare someone for, it could be an interview of a job of their dreams. It could be someone to get back on that horse again. I mean, various different levels, right? You deal with everybody. What advice do you have for someone who has accomplished a lot in their career? Because what I don't like as someone that I'm hiring, and I'm sure, Ari, you're saying the same thing, and you're all going to laugh. When someone sends me a resume that's like 6 pages long, my ADD sets in and I put it aside. I can't. That's just way too much information. But someone who hasn't updated their resume in a while, how do they properly capture these accomplishments so that what needs to stand out sticks out?
Yeah, I think the resume has to be interesting. I would say no more than 2 pages, 3 maximum if you had a long career. But look at the job. I always like to see a nice summary of your experience so that right off you see what this person's all about. And then each job is listed chronologically with a little description on the company and then action-oriented bullets, accomplishments. What is it that you've done? What contributions have you made to that organization? What did you do while you were in the job? What projects did you work on? How much money did you save? How much revenue did you generate? Was there growth in your customer base? Did you reduce turnover if you're a leader? And what is it that is going to bring your experience alive and want the hiring managers to really want to interview you? As Joaquin says, give you that golden ticket, which is really the interview. Because if it's a boring resume, if it reads like a job description, nobody's going to look at it. And especially if it's 6 pages, people typically after the first page, and Ari can certainly speak on this. She sees resumes all the time, and she knows what it is. The other thing I tell you is to exactly what Joaquin was saying. Look at the job description and tweak it, and make sure that you have captured the essence of what that job is about, and that the experience that you have had is reflected on that resume.
Yeah, and I want to expand a little bit about what Robert was saying about accomplishments. Many times when I am looking at resumes and I'm looking for a particular skill or particular level, right? They'll put these accomplishments that have nothing to do with the position that they were in, right? If you're in sales, you have to talk about sales, right? As recruiters, you have to talk about how many hires you have, right? So it's because that's basically what's going to make somebody pick up the phone and call you.
I would say, Ari, you're correct. And one thing that we love to see is actual facts in a resume, right? Numbers, meaning, hey, I was a recruiter and I placed 35 people a month, 25 people a month. Numbers are very, very important because that's factual information that we can have a conversation about. If you just put that you placed people, or let's say you did sales and you brought in $1 million worth of gross revenue or whatever it is, I want to know where, how. Give us a little bit more details on the numbers, and I think that makes it more interesting. Absolutely.
And I would just add, if you've got great salient experience, put the good stuff at the top. Don't let us have to go down to page 3 in the 4th paragraph and find it. Put it at the top. Let us, everyone on this call can say we're looking at hundreds of resumes, thousands. Ernie's super busy. He's got a real job that's separate from looking at resumes, and he's looking at one at the end of the day. He doesn't want to have to find why it's relevant on page 6. So give him the good stuff right at the top.
A resume is real estate, right? If I want to sell my house, I'm not going to show someone the side of my house. I'm going to show them the backyard or wherever. I will accentuate the best part of the house, right? So you want to put that to the top, and this can get very detailed, and we'll be able to share this with them as they start contacting us, and we'll help. But your best part is your top half. And I'm sure, Ernie, you'll have a question in a little bit about that, and I'll go into further detail with that.
Yes, and that's, you nailed it. We look at resumes all the time, and I have my own talent team that is constantly, there'll be hundreds of resumes coming for a single role, and you got to sort through that. And you want something that's going to knock you, give you a knockout punch from the go. It's like a book that captures you from the first chapter. If I got to read 3 chapters to get into a book, I'm not going to finish the 3rd chapter. I'm going to put it down and move on to the next book. That's, again, my ADD is that way. I gotta get connected right away. So Adi, I'm going to go to you here on this, because we're talking about resumes. We're talking about putting, the heavy hitting stuff on the top of the resume. Let's talk about skill sets. As part of an organization, what I tell my people is I'm not looking to hire somebody for this job. I'm looking to hire somebody that is going to be promotable 2 or 3 more times up the ladder. Because I want that natural progression of movement within the organization that's healthy, so we can continue to cycle people in through the organization. What skill sets do you look at? What are the important things that capture your eye when bringing people into Ryder?
Well, I will say that the skill set depends on the position. However, I will tell you that because of how COVID has changed, right, how we do everything, there are a few things that we look at when we look at a resume, right? Cross-functionality. Has this person been able to adapt to changes, right? Have they been able, I think, Robert, you mentioned that transferable skills, right? Do they have those? Because, for example, we're looking, myself, I've had to, with this COVID, my responsibilities have increased, and I'm actually putting my hand in many things that where normally I wouldn't have. So we're looking a lot of people that are flexible, depending on the job also, because there is a lot of remote work as well, is in their job, can they show that they've been disciplined and that they have the independence to work remotely as well, right? So it's a lot about intangibles, I would say, and do they bring those things to the table? And your past history really does show if you're able to move with the company or if you're stuck in a certain type of position.
So I want to pause here for a second and remind everybody listening in that we do have a chat. And if anyone has any questions on anything we've covered so far or anything we may have missed that you want to include, feel free to include that in the chat, and we'll review those questions later on when we cycle through here with the panel. Yeah,
and I can expand, I guess, Ernie, a little bit more on overall, right? As I mentioned, we have 2,400 openings, right? So we're looking from anywhere to entry level to executives and VPs, right? And in operations and finance. Like I said, I'm building a new team because to recruit for warehouse workers. So all across every type of division of function, we have an opening basically today.
Wonderful. And I guess the good thing here too with Bimal and Joaquin, they have access to hundreds or thousands of jobs across the country, not just here. So, and we'll talk a little bit later about how you can get in contact with their company directly to help with any information and how, and which actually leads me to this next question. Bimal, perfect segue, is how do I get in touch with your company, and how does the whole recruitment process work, right? Is there a fee to be paid, or do I have to, what do I need to provide? What's the role here in the process?
Sure. Now, let me explain that. I want to make sure everyone that just joined us understands this. So first of all, how would you contact us? Anywhere you can. That could be phone. You could text us. You could email us. Our contact information is on the Columbus website, this great new website, and we will welcome any outreach, phone, text, email. Our service is 100% completely free to candidates and job seekers, end to end, the whole time. Anyone using a recruiter should be free. And if any recruiter tries to charge you for something, you should work with them. That's not a typical thing. So ours is 100% free. Reach out to us. when you do reach out to us, we'll set up a time to have a proper call where we can chat at length and comfortably. And what we'll do is we'll get to know you. We'll get to know each other. We'll review your background, your education, your skills, your aspirations. Find out what you want to do with this next phase of your career. We're going to give you specific, targeted, personalized advice and guidance on your resume and on your job search, and try to help you find the job that you want. That's going to be very specific. We have a lot of detail and stuff, so all of that stuff is for your benefit. Then, we actually may have positions open. The other side of the coin is employers and companies reach out to us. They have positions that they want some assistance, finding talent with, and we try to make that match, as Joaquin said. So if we have a position open that is a good fit, we'll talk about it with you, and we'll talk about why that might be a good fit for you. And if it is, or you think it might be, we can present you for that position. And if we do so, we'll prepare you for that interview. We'll walk you and guide you through that process. But regardless of the outcome of this relationship, your resume, your profile will stay with us in our company, in our database, in our nationwide recruiter network forever, and we will continue to make you aware of new positions that come available that you might be interested in. This is a relationship that will start tonight, but will continue as long as we're all working in professions together. We're here to help you throughout the process, and many times we're helping people several years later that as they move to new jobs. So we're very excited to help. We very much hope you call. Please do.
Yeah. So, follow-up question here, Bimal. When it comes to the services you provide, I've dealt with certain recruiters in the past that are specialized. They might be specialized to a specific industry, or they only specialize in executive searches. Your organization, do you specialize in anything? Is it generic, or do you have entry-level opportunities? Is it mid-management opportunities?
Great question. We have a pretty broad portfolio. We've been in business a long time, and we've realized that helping employers, a lot of it is about making a match, and as Ari talked about, finding these other qualities that really let people flourish. So we have a big practice area in IT. We do a lot of finance and accounting and administrative support, and we also have legal. But we've done a lot of things right now. One of our biggest practice areas that's growing is in veterinarian practices and veterinary medicine supplies. That's a huge growing industry. So we're very open. I would ask people to reach out to us. We can help you with so much, even if it's not an industry that we're uniquely expert in. There's a lot of guidance, help, and referrals that we can give you towards any profession.
Wonderful. Thank you for that and for clarifying that, because I know, speaking to people in the past, there's this fear that it's going to cost me something or not. So thank you for clarifying. Adi, how is Ryder handling hiring of new employees during this pandemic? Obviously, the way you did things before are a little different, so your process has changed. So if someone were to hire with you or with a company, what could they expect?
Well, we had to shift, and we've been talking about that here, right, to basically doing everything virtually, right? Before COVID, we were used to the candidate would get a screen from the recruiter, and then from there, every interview would be in person, right? Here comes COVID, and now we're not able to do that. So we had to train our hiring managers how to use virtual recruiting tools, how to sign up, and it was some areas it was a little bit easier than others, because then they were also used to, for example, for our warehouse positions and our technicians positions, part of the interview process was to give them a tour of the location. Well, we can't do that anymore, right? So we had to make the hiring managers comfortable with making decisions to hire a candidate or not without speaking to them in person. Right. So we shifted completely to virtual, as I said, and not only for hiring managers, but also on the candidate side. Right. For example, now everything is done through computers, through texting. And also when we bring them on board, where they have to do the onboarding piece, Much of that was, again, done in person with a hiring manager, like the I-9s and signing of the application. All of that was also now it's electronically done, including in that, like the onboarding, which the part of the orientation and the training, we also had to create virtual learning for that, right? So before, we would have classroom settings where they would sit and they would have a trainer or facilitator that would take them through the information. Now we had to move and put all that content behind the computer, right? Develop interesting and fun ways of putting that information in front of them. So basically we went, like, as I said, to being a very, I'm not going to say it's not personalized, because it's still personalized, and we still meet with them and speak to them, but now it's a lot of it happens behind the computer, right? And behind the desk, basically.
Yeah, and if I can build on something here too, because it's something that people that are either coming in new to the workplace or having to change jobs, that can speak very specifically to my son. And he graduated in 2013. And I've learned from that, and I'm seeing what he does. I'm trying to be empathetic to my own employees, because I'm seeing it firsthand, is the absence of people, right, that they touch. Because, and Ari, I don't know if you know this, my son was let go from Royal Caribbean, and he was in charge, or he was working as a capital analyst there. And 3 months later, he was hired, and he works at Ryder. But his biggest struggle is he's never stepped foot in the building.
Yeah.
He's never met anybody. So, I think a piece of advice that I would have for people that are starting new or getting into the workplace or have been laid off, and they've got this mindset of what they used to do. The future is very different right now. And there's this, the whole world is in this flux of change. Corporations are in this flux of change. We talked earlier about office space and more remote working. I don't know if we want to talk about that a little bit, because, from a coaching standpoint, Robert, or from a hiring standpoint, Bimal and Joaquin, in terms of what people are actually looking for, there needs to be an understanding and an education, because this is something new to the workforce that we've never really experienced before. The lack of people interaction, personal people interaction, lack of a culture within the workplace, a lack of, friendship. My son would say, their office was right downtown. They'd go to Heat games together with fellow employees. That's all missing now. So this is going to be part of managing expectations, I guess, as people enter the workforce.
Yeah, I would hope that things get better. And you mentioned in May, in the summer, vaccines, certainly as work becomes a little more normal, or at least the new normal, I think there will be opportunities for that human interaction. I think that we're all working, or many of us are working remotely. And especially if you're an extroverted person that likes people, the isolation of being in your house, working virtually, takes a toll on people. Fortunately, I think we have Zoom, Microsoft Teams, a way to connect virtually with people, and find a way to really go beyond being alone, and finding those opportunities. Now, we talked earlier, there are lots of opportunities to work for companies in different parts of the world. But you have to kind of come to terms that if you do accept the role of a company that's headquartered somewhere else, or that we're all working remotely, that it may be limited the amount of times you have that interaction. So you need to find different ways to interact with people when things get back to a somewhat normal life.
Yeah, and I would add, Ernie, I think the big companies, like I'm sure Aries and others, are also considering that even though we can communicate via Zoom or via video conference, that interaction where the culture of a firm is built, and with just, whether it's softball teams or whether it's just talking at the water cooler or sharing coffee, we've lost some of that. So they're now building in, I think, new programs to try to build that kind of camaraderie and build that kind of culture, in addition to just communicating over work.
One of the things that employers are doing is something called Airbnb. Airbnb has Airbnb Experience, where they have actual online virtual events, whether it's mixing drinks, Ernie, it's something that you can relate to, or painting, watercolor painting, or there are even virtual tours of zoos, and you do this as a team virtually, so that you can connect and have some downtime with individuals that you're working with, so you can continue to build a bond with individuals. Ari, I'm sorry.
Yeah, no, what I wanted to say is that it's also a learning for hiring managers as well, right? Because for some roles more than others, they're used to being able to walk into an office and have their whole team there, and that's how they basically interact with them and do not need to do anything more. But now with this virtual reality that we live in, right, it's educating managers that some of your employees do need a little bit more touch, right? So for example, recruiters are very much people, right? They like to be in contact with people. I mean, if you're a recruiter, you like people, right?
Mm-hmm.
You like a lot of chaos. You like a lot of movement. You just like a lot, right? So for example, for me as a leader, given that my whole team is remote and working from home, I have to provide them ways for us to come together. So we'll do, like you mentioned, Robert, like we'll have our happy hours, right? We'll connect as a team. We'll just do fun things that have nothing to do with work, just so that we can create that camaraderie and give it mainly to the folks that are like your son, Ernie, right? That younger age, that they're used to that and they're looking for that when they join a company like Ryder, right?
Yeah. Joaquin, you're muted, potentially. Lost Joaquin. Sorry about that. So let's go to Robert here real quick. Robert, what advice would you give someone who has not interviewed for a job in a long time, and what can they do to properly prepare themselves?
Practice, practice, practice. The more you practice, the better it is. Ask yourself what we call behavioral type questions. Those are the questions that say, tell me about, give me an example of, and make sure you have those stories ready. Make sure that you really think about the job that you had, the experiences you've had, the projects you've worked on. And when they ask you, tell me a time when you had an issue with a customer, think of that story, and obviously it should be a positive outcome that makes you look good. If there are some areas where you have some difficulties, or you need to spin those stories around and make sure that you're always honest, but certainly project a very positive outcome to those situations. So it's situational type questions that are asked. Record yourself on Zoom or any online tool and watch yourself. It may be painful to watch yourself. Actually, it may be easier than you think. Just thinking about it, you may get nervous, but it's actually a very good idea to watch yourself and see what you do, look at your mannerisms, see how you project yourself. Also ask your family and friends to interview you. Come up with a series of questions based on the job description that you have, and have them give you feedback. Make sure that you practice with them. Anybody that's willing to listen and assist you and coach you through the interview process. The more you rehearse, the more you practice, the better you will be. The better you will be able to articulate why you have a passion for this role and this job, and why you should be hired versus somebody else.
Yeah, the two mistakes I see, Robert, one is what you just said in the beginning, the situational piece. People tell you what the situation was and what they had to do, what they did, and then they stop.
Right.
And they don't tell you what the outcome is. And you're like,
Right.
Wait a second. The whole point is, did it work or didn't work? And they just stop.
Yeah,
and then the other thing is, the interview's over, and they're like, okay, thank you. It's like, ask for the order.
Right, exactly.
When can I start?
True.
Is there something that did I fail to meet any of your expectations during this interview that I can clear up for you right now? Some kind of, like I tell everybody, when you interview, don't be in there passively. I want someone's going to reach across the table, grab my tie, pull me in, and say, hire me. That's what I'm looking for.
Close the deal.
Yeah.
When can I start? I'm eager to have for the next step in this process.
One thing we are seeing and we saw recently is that companies are doing, I think is awesome, is having a virtual tour to the candidate of the office and saying, hey, this is where you may end up one day. This is our office. And they've put it together. One of our clients has been amazing. They actually role play it. They come out of their offices. They say, hello, how are you? Because remember, we and our clients are also looking to hire, right? They want to get the best talent. So they have to also make a pitch. And that's the way it is, especially the different generations. Some generations are looking for what can they do for me? You know, where our generation was, give me the job. I'm going to learn and do great. The millennials and different generations are saying, well, what can they do for me? Well, this is a good one. Here's a nice virtual tour of our office. They love that stuff. And I think it's a good idea.
Yeah. And I want to go back to like the advice we could give people that for interviews. One of the things when my daughter was looking for work, I would always tell her is that for also the interview is not over until it's over. Like you have a chance to save that interview if it's going bad. I myself saw myself in some waters that I was like, I can see that the guy is not going, and just by turning it around and asking the right questions, hooked, and I would get the offer. And the other thing is that I know that when you're just starting, you get nervous. You tend to get nervous during the interview. And one of the things I would always tell my daughter as well was just sorry guys, I have a dog. Just put it out there that you're nervous. I apologize. I'm a little nervous. This job is very important to me, and yada, yada, yada.
Yeah.
And don't forget the thank you note at the end of the interview. Make sure a nice little handwritten note goes a long way to say thank you.
And don't misspell anything in that thank you note.
Especially the person's name. Especially the name.
That's
absolutely
excellent.
Yeah, I just want to, I thought, Robert, your guidance was fantastic. And
Yeah.
I just had, interviewing is kind of like a muscle. It's if you haven't done it in a while, people think, I'm just talking about myself. How hard could it be? It's hard, especially when you're over the camera. Doing that practice, like I even did for tonight, doing this town hall, I said, what does this look like? And I was like, ooh, that didn't look good. So, that practice and doing the video and watching yourself is invaluable. I know it's 100% true what Robert said. Definitely do that. If you haven't interviewed in a while, believe me, you're out of practice and you won't like how you sound the first time, but that's okay. You'll get better.
That's right.
And take a look at your camera as you're preparing for virtual interviews, which is what we're mostly doing now. Lighting is very important. Sound, make sure that you have Wi-Fi connectivity. Avoid interruptions. I always recommend to put a sign, maybe lock yourself in a room and say interviewing so that somebody doesn't come in. Watch your dogs, children. Some of those interruptions, I think nowadays are very acceptable, especially in meetings. But when you're interviewing, you want to make sure to limit some interruptions because you want a very professional image. To your, especially if you're going to take a job where you're going to be working, you want to limit that.
Absolutely. Robert, you're on the money there. That's excellent. We had a candidate that we always tell someone, create a setting for your interview. That's going to be like the space, like if you're in front of the person, make sure it is professional. Obviously, the way you dress, the comb your hair, the way you look, those are the givens, right? But they're important. But we had someone interview, we told them this, and the person interviewed, and in the back, they had a poster of a movie. Well, it turns out that the person interviewing them was distracted by that, distracted by the poster. You don't want that, okay? So Robert is right. You really have to think about that setting and create a nice ambiance for that interview. Absolutely.
And you can wear shorts. Just make sure you don't get up.
Don't get up.
So I got one more question here for Joaquin, and then we do have a few questions on the chat that I want to get to.
Sure.
Joaquin, from a recruiter's point of view, we talked about resumes earlier. What are some key resume tips that you want to leave everybody with?
Okay, the golden ticket, right? Well, we keep talking about it. It's the most important part, right? We believe, and our theory is that a basic resume is the best, okay? So work history, education, certifications, and references, okay? Keep that simple. Now, we've had some candidates say, Well, can I put my picture on the resume? Back in the day, that was a big no-no. Now we think a little bit outside the box. And what we tell them is, well, if you think you look like Brad Pitt, go right ahead, do it, so we don't hold them back with that. So go right ahead. Let that positive energy come out in your resume. Now, remember, you need to think of your resume again like a piece of real estate, okay? So the most valuable part, and this is interesting, of your resume is the top half. You can list your skill set at the top and start your chronological order of your work history with the bullet points and what you've done, or no bullet points, that's okay. But that top half is very, very, very interesting. What we don't like to see, and my recruiters don't like to see, is I am a team-oriented person. Let me ask everyone a question here. Have you ever read one that says, I'm not a team-oriented person? You know what I mean? You're wasting real estate here. Even Dennis Rodman believes he's a team-oriented person. He's not. So don't waste that real estate on that. Okay? Get rid of what we would call word salad, right? Get rid of that. Okay? Our recruiters can see up to 75 resumes per day for one single position. And they usually will look at your top half and then scroll to the bottom for your education. Why? That recruiter may have had a croissant. That recruiter may be digesting food, may be a little tired, may see the resume start looking the same after 5 or 6. So you need to make sure that you're matching that job description and really using that real estate at the top and making it work. You see what I mean? So you want to put those things that are relative from that job description in that top half. We see this all the time. They don't. They put it at the bottom, and we say, no, let's fix this order and put these important things up at the top. That's your most valuable real estate. So that's really, really, really important. Very, very important that they take advantage of that top and put the right things. These are things that we do at Job I Talent Group, where we coach them this way. And I'm sure Robert and Ari have seen this, where we tell them, this resume, it's a mess. We want to make sure we catch the eyes. And recruiters, I am telling you guys this, they get tired at 3 and 4 p.m. And your resume may come up then right after lunch, after a big bowl of pasta. And guess what? They're not going to see those key things, and they're going to move to the next resume. That happens, So we want to make sure they take advantage of that at the top, that it makes sense, that it works. Our recruiter will also, at the same time, this is important, go to your LinkedIn page and make sure your LinkedIn page fits what's on the resume. You can't have two different things. So you want to make sure your resume and your LinkedIn page are the same, right? And then, very important, LinkedIn has become like a Facebook, unfortunately, but there are two very key things that are very important about LinkedIn. One, your work history has to match your resume. And two, your picture. Put a nice headshot there where you're smiling. We don't want to see someone at a Dolphin Heat game or out in Key West at a bar. We don't want to see that, okay? We want to see a picture of you smiling, a nice professional headshot that's inviting, because a recruiter will also look at that. So those are the things that I would add that are very, very important.
And the other thing I recommend, and I agree, I think you have to have a professional portrait as part of your LinkedIn profile. Make sure that you have a picture, because I think lots of people nowadays look at LinkedIn. The other thing I would suggest is clean up your Facebook, because a lot of people, whether you know it or not, are doing social media searches. There are a lot of companies that are doing that. And if you are interested in working in a professional environment, you may want to clean up if there's anything that you don't want your future employer to know that you're doing. Maybe take some of those pictures having too much fun down, because you want to project a professional image.
Robert is 100% correct. It's called private, guys. Keep your profiles private. Yeah. Recruiters will make a judgment. We just do. We're going to see, hey, someone's here. These pictures are a little off base. This is not what my client wants. And they move on to the next one. Right. Keep it private. Keep it private.
Well, your reputation's on the line, because if you're sending someone that, is trash, then they're going to think less likely of you. You want to put your best foot forward and provide the best candidates that you possibly can.
Absolutely.
So moving on here now to the chat. A question came in from Nick Camps. It says here, great to be hearing from all of you. I graduated from Columbus in 2017, and I'm graduating from Florida State. I do not have much work experience that can be applied into my financial career due to the pandemic and gaining my degree. What do you think are other good ways I might be able to market myself to employers without having any relevant work experience? Great question.
Very good question. I would start by saying Nick needs to, same thing, that real estate on the resume. What is the most important thing, Nick, that you've done in your life? You may not have a lot of work experience, but maybe you were on a row team or a tennis player or a football team or or whatever. Maybe you're part of you did a great job with the yearbook in your high school. Can you please list it up there and let us know? And tell us in your resume what you would like to do, right? You can put a couple sentences looking for whatever Nick is looking for. I think that's very, very important. And if Nick can get that LinkedIn page up with a nice picture, okay, he can clean up that resume and make sure that resume shows that he's studying right now, he's getting his education. Those are good, valid points. We actually have clients that will tell us, I don't want someone with a lot of experience because I want to be able to mold them and train them in our way. We have those type of positions, and Nick would be someone that would be a great candidate for a position like that.
And I would say any work experience that you have, whether it's related to your financial career or not, I think it's important. Remember we said about transferable skills. There are things that maybe you have worked on that could potentially help you in gaining a career in the financial industry that you want. Also, see if there are any internships. The summer's coming. Companies may be offering some summer internships. If you're able to shadow anyone, I know that with the pandemic things have been different, but any projects you could work on that you could highlight. So anything that will give you an opportunity to really highlight some of the areas that you've been exposed to or have some experience. Also look at companies that do college recruiting. I know there's probably some things, and you're probably having virtual recruiting events. Take advantage of those, because there are companies that specifically hire right out of college. Take advantage of those. Obviously, you have to do well in school because the companies are looking for individuals that have done well in college, and take advantage of those opportunities.
Yeah, I'll add to that. Certifications are also important. You may not have work experience, but you may have certifications that may help you. I think that's important as well. Sorry, Bima, go ahead.
Yeah, no problem. And I would just add, Nick, it's understood that when you're coming out of college, you don't have a huge part of experience. They're not looking for that necessarily, or they understand that, but they're looking for qualities that are going to make you a good employee. So if you can demonstrate those, like you were a competitive debater, or as Joaquin said, you were accomplished in some other area where you demonstrated, a competitive spirit or some other, measure of accomplishment, that's a quality about you as a person that will carry weight and be interesting to employers looking to hire, new college grad.
Mm-hmm.
We got another question here from Christian Gonzalez. Hi, everyone. On the topic of skills and certifications, does expanding these provide an edge for those with limited work experience or who started working recently, or does experience supersede all?
I would say that depends, Christian.
It does.
It's an entire package. It's your personality. It's how you present yourself, how you answer the interviews, the experience that you've had, the certifications that you have. So anything that you can contribute or expand on will help you differentiate yourself from other candidates. So the more you have, the better it is, and the better you project yourself, the easier it becomes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and it depends a lot on the role, as you were saying, because some roles, certifications, right, they're good to have, but not necessary. People skills are more important, so it's very, very dependent on the role.
IT would be the type of work where certifications without work experience really, really help you.
What about a master's? Is that necessary? Because you hear people say, get your master's, get your master's. Is a master's degree necessary to move on?
It depends on the role, and I think if you can gain a master's degree or an MBA, depends on the position. But sometimes I like to see more work experience before they actually get a master's degree. It may mean more for them to get a little more experience, and then while they're working, obtain their master's degree.
Yeah. Where it helps, in my experiences, if you have two qualified candidates, very similar, and this one has a master's, you might choose that one over the other one.
Perfect. And then we got one more question here in terms of new hires. Do companies that offer, because obviously we're in a virtual world, do candidates get virtual tours of the company nowadays, or how do companies introduce it? We talked a little bit about onboarding. Is that something companies do now?
Yeah, I mean, I mentioned before, we saw it last week where we had a company that even had roles for their employees that are in office, that they were selling the company to the candidate and saying, here's a virtual tour of our office. It almost looked like a Martin Scorsese scene where they were just going like this with the camera, and people would pop out of the office and say, hey, my name is so-and-so and my title is this. And I'll tell you, it blew us away and it blew the candidate away. So we are seeing some of that. Not everyone, but we're seeing them adapt. And again, this was a tough time, and it is a tough time, and companies are adapting as well. You know, as candidates are adapting, companies are as well.
Cool. So we're approaching the end here of our hour. I want to remind everybody, from an alumni perspective, you can go on to the Christopher Columbus website and click on alumni. And there's a Columbus Connects Career Services site there that you can webpage that's been developed, and you can find all the information regarding Bimal and Joaquin's company, as well as Robert's company and the services that they provide. Feel free to go right onto the website. You can reach out directly to these gentlemen for information about their services and how they can help better prepare you moving forward. And I also want to make sure that I'm clear on the fact that, I said earlier that this is not only for Columbus, but our Columbus family. We realize that there's a lot of people impacted here. So I don't want people to think that this is just for the Columbus alumni, because I know a lot of Columbus alumni have spouses impacted by this. They have siblings impacted by this. And a lot of Columbus alumni, like my brother, they don't have any sons. They're girl dads. Mm-hmm. And obviously their families are all welcome. And for those that are students, that their parents are not we're not alumni, this is open to them as well. This is open to the entire Columbus family, and the services are available for the whole Columbus family. So, in closing, I want to thank all our guest speakers for taking the time to join us this evening. Adi, thank you very much for taking time out of your day here, and thank you for letting us into the world of Ryder. Joaquin and Bimal, thank you very much also for talking a little bit more about your company and how you can help expand the reach for those that are looking for work, and clarifying how you can help. And Robert, from a coaching perspective also, to help people get prepared. So as they work with Bimal and Joby, you're coaching them, ready to go, and active searches are going. And if anyone's interested in some of the many opportunities available at Ryder, I'm sure they can go onto Ryder.com and go on the career site and learn more about the job opportunities available at Ryder. I hope the advice and the information they provided to our Columbus community will make a difference in your job future job searches and planning. But I'd also like to say a special thank you to the people behind the scenes, because there's a lot of people behind the scenes to help make this happen. Omar Delgado and Melissa Marty, who helped put together the services here this evening electronically and with the background. Alfonso Flash Fernandez and Barbara Brannis, who helped bring this to life as far as our alumni director and development director for the school. And the most important thing to remember is that the key to networking is to stay connected. So remember to update your contact information by emailing our alumni director Barbara Brannis directly at bbbranis@columbushs.com. And all of this can be found on the Columbus website. And also, please, we spoke about social media here too. Follow Columbus on social media, because this is a great way to stay connected on future events and happenings around the school. So again, Bimal and Joaquin, Adi, and Robert, thank you very much for this evening. It's been fun, and appreciate you taking part in today's town hall.
Thank you,
Have a
Ernie.
great night, everybody.
Pleasure.
Thank you.
Good night.
Thank you for the opportunity. Bye-bye.